Breaking into comedy, that's what's coming up on The Art of Bombing, episode 144.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Thanks for tuning in to a brand new episode of The Art of Bombing. I'm Dan Bublitz Jr. here with you. As always, it is Friday, June 26th, 2020, the year that everybody is just waiting for it to be over. Well, the good news is it's June, which means we're halfway through the year. So hopefully it's all downhill from here. That's what would be nice. It is, like I said, it is Friday. I hope everybody had a great week. I hope you enjoyed the last episode with Dustin Nickerson. I hope you guys got lots of fun things planned this weekend. I hope you're looking forward to the weekend. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend. Honestly, I don't have a lot going on. My fiance is she's going camping with some friends. And I'll be home with the dogs. I'll be home taking care of the dogs, which is fine with me. I'm going to do some writing, maybe read some comic books, maybe read some books, and do some writing, and just kind of chill. But I'm going to make it a good weekend, that's for sure. Today on the show, my guest is Madeleine Farley. We had a great conversation a few weeks ago, and I'm excited to share it with you. She's very, very new to comedy. She's only been doing stand-up for about a year, but she has a great background in theater and performing arts. So, it was a great conversation, and that's what's going to be coming up on the show. But before we get to that, let's handle some business. Not that I have a lot of business to handle. Most of the same stuff as a Tuesday, same kind of stuff. Still working on the details to bring back Renewed, so keep an eye out on that. But actually, before we get into other news, I just want to kind of reiterate what I was talking about on Tuesday too, with about all the different stuff that's happening in comedy. With sexual harassment and misbehavior and misconduct and things like that. We need to listen. People are speaking up. We need to listen, and we need to hold ourselves, along with our friends, accountable, and we need to make changes to make our comedy communities all across the nation safe and welcoming for everybody. That is important. It is very important that we do those things. We should have already done that. We shouldn't have to do them. It should have already be done. That's the thing. If we were in any other profession, if we did something bad to another person, we would lose that job. We would be terminated. So, and we don't have a HR department to monitor these kind of things. So, we need to do that. We need to take the responsibility into our own hands and prevent this stuff from happening. And when it does happen, hold the people accountable. And most importantly, I feel like we just need to listen, especially guys. We're good at not listening, and we need to get better at that. Need to listen to the words that people are saying, and actually take them serious, and not just brush it off like it's nothing. Can't be doing that. We got to change our behavior. It starts inside our hearts, and we got to go from there. So, try to be a better person. Like I've been saying, do better and be better. That's what we got to do. All right, let's get to regular business. Regular business is, if you haven't done so already, make sure you tell a friend. Tell somebody that you think would enjoy this podcast. Tell somebody that might learn something from this podcast. Tell somebody you don't like. Someone, not that you don't like. I mean, you can tell somebody you don't like. That would help me. But I was going to say, tell somebody that might not like it, because it'd be funny as a little joke. You'd be like, oh no, I heard this podcast, I really, really like it, and get them to like it. Then they'll, get them to listen to it. Then they'll listen to it and they'll be like, whoa, what was this? And then it'd be a funny little prank. And also I get another listener. Hopefully. We'll see what happens there. But anyway, yeah. Tell somebody. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Leave a 5-star review and say some nice words in the review. That always helps, and always appreciate that. So make sure you do that if you haven't done so already. And if you want to support the show financially, I did start a new Patreon for the Art of Bombing. Just the Art of Bombing. It's not wrapped up in all my endeavors. It's just simply Art of Bombing. It's pretty simple. There's only 2 tiers. With lots of great benefits for either of the tiers. You can find that at patreon.com/artofbombingpod. All right, I think that's enough gibberish. I can't even talk, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not going to edit that out. I'm going to leave it in here, and we're going to get to this episode. So enjoy my conversation with Madeleine. So how have you been handling the quarantine?
It varies from day to day. Sometimes poorly, sometimes fine. I've been living with my boyfriend, which is funny to me because we had only been dating officially for like 1.5 months before we moved in together, which is not unprecedented. It's just not something I was anticipating.
Yeah. Well, how's that going then? Because you never know. You really don't know anybody until you move in. Really, that's when you learn.
It's super real, totally. But like, it shakes me to my core how easily we live together. Like, we're able to have disagreements and not hate each other. Shock. I know. We're like the same level of like kind of messy, needs to be clean sometimes. So that hasn't been too bad. And he works. So he's been an essential worker the whole time. So he works at a grocery store. And so I've just basically been a housewife. So I have time to myself, you know?
Yeah,
like,
which
so
that helps.
Mm-hmm, it helps stem the flow of resentment, if you will.
Mm-hmm, yep, yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my fiance, she works from home right now, and I've been laid off, but we have there's space. Like, she's downstairs working, I'm up in my studio, you know, so we still give each other space or whatever, and we've been getting along great. So it definitely helps being quarantined with somebody. You don't go as crazy.
Yeah, it's really funny because the way it all worked out is like I moved into my boyfriend's apartment and his roommate, they moved into their boyfriend's apartment, and my roommate, her boyfriend moved into our apartment. So it all like spread out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It, like we just all followed in a line. And it actually worked out great because I love my roommate to death. I just don't know if I could have like lived 24 hours with her and her boyfriend because he's not in work and she's in school, because that would have been so much in a 2-bedroom.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially because everybody is taking classes online, so they're still around.
Yeah. Although I do miss my dishwasher so much. So much.
Yeah. Well, you got to wash the dishes before you put them in the dishwasher. Anyway, like, that's how I always saw them.
A light rinse will do. In my perspective, you know, if it comes out a little bit crusty, I'll just clean it by hand at that point. You know? Yeah. Just give it the wash then. Oh, that's great. Oh man. Yeah. It's, have you did any digital shows? Now I know you do theater. You're big into theater. And have you did anything with that, like virtual theater or anything? Cause I see that's like a thing that has been, you know, people have been doing virtual theater. Yeah, it's like more power to them. I've just been so like creatively bankrupt this entire time. And I've been trying not to like extend myself or feel bad about it. I am doing actually a playwriting class. My aunt suggested it because she is an actor and director over in Vermont. She like runs her own like artistic space. And so we've been doing an online playwriting workshop.
Okay.
And I've been writing a play for Zoom, like to be performed over like video chat. But other than that, I haven't done any theater, anything. I've barely watched anything. I watched The King and I, which was fine. But I don't know. Even like comedy shows, I haven't been super like watching or participating in because I just don't feel happy afterwards. Like I really like seeing all my friends and everything.
and experiencing like the joy of other people being able to practice like what they love. But at the end, I'm just like, gosh, dang it. Why can't we just be out there with each other, getting our drink tickets on, you know?
Yep. It definitely doesn't have the same. It doesn't give you the same feelings, that's for sure.
No.
And it's like it's a substitute for now, but it definitely doesn't. It won't replace stand-up comedy. The feeling you get from the live, comedy and everything.
I will say I haven't been in like a Zoom comedy show yet. That might be better. I'm a loud laugher.
Yeah, the Zoom shows have been pretty good. I mean,
okay.
It's still not live stand-up comedy, but it is nice when there's people in there and you can hear them laugh and stuff, because even like performing, it's a little awkward in how you perform, because it's not the same as having that energy of a full room or whatever. But
although I do think it's very funny how people are like, even me being like, there's no response. Like, I think I have more of an issue of doing it to a camera than I do like to the lack of response that a lot of people are struggling with. Because I'm like, were you going to open mics before the pandemic? Because you weren't getting like we all were in those rooms together. We weren't getting laughs then either. Like, especially like, I think it's honestly more realistic for there to be no response, because it's more like what an open mic feels like, especially when it's like all comics too.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's one thing I've noticed. It seems like a lot of the mics and stuff, as far as that have been on Zoom, usually it's just other comics in the Zoom meeting, And of course, a lot of them are broadcasting it out into different channels of social media or whatever, but you don't see, they can't respond or whatever, or you don't hear that laughter. But it is definitely different because of, like how you perform to, because there's delay with the internet, and that was one thing that caught me off guard. Like I did a show, told a joke, got nothing. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, that joke bombed, move on. And then, as you get ready to move on, then people start laughing, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a delay. I gotta, you gotta consider that.
And there's like internet problems, or like Wi-Fi issues. Like, that's not a thing when you're on stage. You don't just glitch out. You don't just poof disappear. It's so aggravating.
Very true.
Yeah.
But I have to say, of all the different I mean, I get like with doing like a script reading, but to do like an actual theater, like a play, or like improv is another thing. I haven't watched it, but I feel like those are like hard things to do, because you really need the chemistry of the other people, the team members of the improv, or the cast, if you will. And it's hard to like get that chemistry virtually.
For sure. I think we're getting there. I think it's about adapting specifically. Like, you can't just take a play that you would have on stage and try to just shove that on Zoom. Like Park Square Theater. So I did see the Park Square Theater's Anne Frank, which I think is online for a couple more days, or maybe it's just gotten off. But they did a really great job of adapting it for like a Zoom like framed performance. And then there's Wesleyan University has a really good adaptation of a play that they completely readapted for Zoom once their school was shut down. So there are people who are figuring it out slowly, but slowly.
Well, and I think that's what you really have to do. It's all about the adapting, because like what you said you said you were writing a play specifically for Zoom, and that's kind of what you got to do. Like you said, you can't do just a regular stage play and expect it to translate very well.
Yeah. You have to completely reconceive.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's one thing I've found to be kind of a silver lining with this. Yeah, it all sucks that we can't go out and perform and stuff, but it's really pushing people to think outside the box and really try to either adapt or realize that maybe this isn't for them. They're not as creative as they thought, So it's like, when it's all said and done, that's, people you're not going to have to compete with, or it's people that are going to just be better and make you better. Because when you're competing with good people, you strive to be better.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think definitely though, even like talking about that, like people who are making it through like the pandemic, there is a certain amount of like emotional stress that comes with organizing and putting on these shows and participating in them, because it's like you're basically bearing your soul. All the jokes are about COVID, by the way, which is another reason I've been like, peace out. I have enough of this in my day-to-day life. I would like to see my family. Thank you. So I don't want to like down on people who feel like they can't like adapt and they're just waiting it out. I think that that's a totally valid response. I just want to say.
Oh no, it absolutely is. I'm just saying from the industry standard, they're probably not gonna come back into it because it's making them think about doing different things. Yeah. I mean, because it sucks for everybody, and I feel bad for anybody trying to figure out how to adapt or people who can't, because like you said, we started talking about living with significant others right off the bat. That's one thing that's fortunate for us. We're not living alone completely in isolation, and there are people who are, and those people are really stressed out, and rightfully so. I couldn't imagine, who knows how I would be if I wasn't with my partner, if I was by myself, I might not be trying to do anything creative,
I would be living in filth. If the year I spent living in a studio apartment alone has any, carryover, I would be so sad. I'd be so alone, and it would just be gross. Although honestly, I probably would have just gone home.
Yeah.
Because my parents asked me for weeks ahead of time whether or not I was going to come home, just in case. And the original plan was to go for Easter because, I'm Catholic, so, I go to church with my family. And then, see from there, bring enough clothes that, if I have to stay for a few weeks, no worries. And then we were shut down before Easter even happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, oh, hey, that's good, though.
That was real good.
I've done a lot more cooking since this has started. So there definitely have been some positive. Just out of curiosity, where is home?
My parents live in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, which is right outside of Milwaukee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's where they live. It's not where I'm from, but that's where we moved. So they're still there.
Okay. So that's where home would have been. So you would have been in Wisconsin if you would have went home and stayed.
So, honestly, I got the better end of the deal because I'm not in Wisconsin.
Yes, there you go.
I do like Wisconsin. It's a fine state. Fine.
Yeah, they're all fine. They all have their pros and cons, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I grew up in South Dakota and just moved here last year, and I'm glad that we're not there now. Because they're totally handling things way differently than the state of Minnesota. So.
Yeah, I am very thankful for our main man, Waltz, over here. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's trying, that's for sure.
Yes.
And putting more of an effort into it than a lot of people. So,
absolutely.
That's good. Well, talking about bombing now, let's know. Do you have a story or a show that you? And I'm curious too. Yeah. I should have put this maybe in the email too, but because you do theater, I'd be interested to hear about a time in theater where that might have happened too.
Oh.
I mean, if you don't have anything if you can't think of anything, that's fine. I mean, do the story about stand-up, but I'm curious about that.
I'm sure I can think of something. Well, for stand-up, I think the story I feel like I gravitated to the most. I don't want to get too sad or anything, but as someone who's
podcast is.
That's true. But as someone, so I feel like there's been plenty of times where I've done not well at open mics. I don't get asked to do shows all that much. But I feel like there's been times, of course, everyone has mics where they don't do well, whether or not you're the best comedian out there or the worst. And none of them really stuck out to me. But one time I was at a mic and, I've been at a mic several times where people have just straight up made jokes where the target is violence against women, and that's the joke, and it's so funny. And they may or may not get laughs. And as someone who's a survivor of sexual violence, which is never fun to bring up, those jokes can really grate on you. And there was one time which was just a hot mess. I went to a mic and it was just set after set after set. No one was reading the room on these. there's no one noticed that it was like 5 people in a row making jokes about like violence against women or like rape jokes or whatever. And I just like started having a panic attack. I cried in the bathroom like 3 times. Luckily, this is at a bar where I like know who the bartender is and he's super nice and like I'm getting through it basically. But it's just like so overwhelming. And I still have to do my set because I don't want to like be a punk ass bitch about it, you know, excuse my language. But like, it'll look even worse if I'm like sobbing in the background. Like people can see me just crying. And then I also don't do my set. No, I'm going to do my set. And I did my set and it was fine. But like, it reminded me a lot about how bombing isn't like something that you can predict, but it is something that you can create an environment for. Especially when we're talking about like marginalized communities who do stand up and like just people who have like shit in their lives that can be really affected by the things people say on stage. Like I don't want to censor people, but I do want them to know that they shouldn't be saying those things and that there are ethical and human reasons to not say them just for the sake of saying them, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
it's a hard discussion.
It really is. I mean, but I just kind of talked with somebody earlier today too about, we were talking about freedom of speech, and it's like, yeah, there's freedom of speech, but that comes with consequences. You know? Say whatever you want, but there's still going to be consequences for it. You know, if you go up and do a racist joke or, you know, a joke about domestic violence, and if somebody in the audience doesn't like it and they say something to you, you can't be mad at it, you know, because that's consequence.
And people are always complaining about how we don't have audience members who aren't comics. And I'm like, why do you think? Like,
absolutely.
Like if you want people like from the street to come and sit in the audience and watch you perform, you can't say these horrible things and think they're funny. And think it's okay no matter who you hurt, you know?
Yeah, well, a lot of times, too, it boils down to inexperience of the comics. You know, they're just doing shock comedy. You know, there's a way, you know, I feel like, and I'm not necessarily there as a comedian, but I feel like as you know, being in the industry, I don't feel like there's anything that's necessarily out of bounds as far as what you can or can't joke about, but it's how you present it and what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's you got to watch how you're presenting it. And a lot of comics just don't care. It's all, they're just trying to get that shock laugh, you know? It's all shock humor, where somebody that's, you know, way more skilled can take the same topic and turn it into a very well-crafted joke that's not necessarily making fun of people who, you know, victims of domestic violence, but instead shedding light to the issue. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
That totally makes sense. And I've heard hilarious rape jokes. To be clear on this, I have heard hilarious rape jokes. And they're delivered by people who understand the gravity of what they're saying, have, again, read the room and understood who their audience is and like what their bar is. And often the people making those jokes when they're the funniest are people who are victims of sexual violence. Like, I've written jokes about like rape before. Like, I haven't like said a bunch of them, but like I've made jokes about violence against women that I think don't attack the victim as part of it, which I think is the most baseline way to construct a joke about a difficult topic that everyone just misses, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and then, you know, going back to reading the room, the problem with, you know, even if a comic does read the room, and, you know, a lot of newer comics, they can read the room, but they're still going to do their material, not because they didn't read the room appropriately. It's just that they don't have material. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, they only have that material, so they're like, well, I'm still going to go up and do this.
Or they don't care, which to me is scarier.
It's more times they don't care than it is probably not having the material.
I don't know, man. Some people don't have material.
That is, well, especially at open mics, because a lot of times, a lot of the open mics, most of the people, comics there, you know, a good majority of them are either just starting out or they're still new, still writing. And it takes a lot of time to build material, you know, and get a healthy stock of material.
Yeah, I feel like something I've like made the mistake of doing is almost like writing too much and like not working enough on like the material I've already written. That's like a big thing, because I was hearing that like people don't have enough material, and I'm like, I gotta always be writing. And I'm like, no, you can just do the same thing 8 times over. Like your friends are doing that and you're still laughing, so you're fine.
Yep. And actually that's something I've seen a lot too, where comics get in their head where they got to constantly write and they don't develop because, you know, they'll do a joke maybe a couple times and then they move on to the next joke, you know, kind of what you were talking about, instead of trying to develop it, because it doesn't matter if you have enough jokes to do 30 minutes. If they're not developed and polished and it's not a good 30 minutes, you're still not going to get booked to do the 30 minutes.
Yeah, like I probably have like an hour's worth of jokes, but I probably have like 5 minutes worth of good jokes at this point.
And that seems like about the appropriate amount. I mean, that seems like the
I've been in it for like a year.
Appropriate ratio.
And I think it's too bad too, because I was finally learning this lesson, and then suddenly I can't go to open mics, and I'm not about to try like jokes I'm developing on like internet, because it just won't be the same.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, I've been doing that actually. I mean, because I started another show to help kind of get me going, like as far as like writing goes. I've been doing this other show called Renewed, where it's like it's an interactive joke writing workshop where we're taking old bits that we don't necessarily do that or didn't work or something that maybe we're just developing, and we're workshopping back and forth, me and another comic, and then the people who watch it can chime in with ideas and stuff too. So it's all interactive. And that's been pushing me to really look at old material and even new stuff. And so when I'm doing some of these mics and stuff, I've actually been working on those jokes that I'm still writing. So I'm doing a lot of like new stuff kind of.
But like, that's a really good idea. And it's also a way that you've adapted to this like Zoom culture in a really interesting way. Like I wouldn't have even thought about that, because you do the thing where it's like kind of one-on-one, which I think is where a lot of like Zoom comedy has been thriving, is that almost like chit-chatty thing, because a lot of people are missing that in general, the back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
That's really cool. I hadn't heard of that. I am bad at social media.
Well, hey, maybe that's good though. Maybe that means you've got better things to do.
Just bon appetit. Just bon appetit. Just the test kitchen. That's it.
That's it. Well, then Tuesdays, 7 p.m. That's when I do it.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm actually free at that time.
Yep, it's on the Art of Bombing Facebook page, so that it streams to.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I'll have to get you on that if you want to, because like I said, that's a fun thing to go back and forth on.
Yeah,
doing that, the writing. It's like I said, for me, it's really helped a lot, and a lot of the comedians that I've had on there, they've gotten a lot out of it too, because they're getting, like I said, the viewers get to make suggestions, and it's usually. I have a couple main people that are always watching who are other comics too. So we're getting really good like tags and suggestions and points of view on how to take the jokes and stuff.
That's awesome. I've definitely, so like my boyfriend is also like a creative person. He's like a theater person as well. And I'm not saying this, but he's expressed interest in stand-up comedy. And he is genuinely one of the funniest people I know, like seriously. And I have definitely been using him for tags. Absolutely.
Oh, and you got to use what you can. I mean, it's funny how, you know, a lot of comics will get offended if somebody offers them a suggestion. And it's like, they're trying to help you. You don't have to be offended that you didn't think of it. You know, it's like,
I want to help, please. No one gives me tags. Oh, no, you know what? Comrade Tripp gave me a tag once, and it's one of the best tags ever. It's I love that boy. He's a great
That's
man.
Awesome. I actually, when people give me tags, you know, I will try it. I won't always necessarily use it, you know, for good, but I will give it a shot and see how it goes.
Yeah, like what's the harm?
Yeah, and it's like I try when somebody has it. If it's a comic, let's back up. Let me rephrase this. When a comic gives me a suggestion or a tag, then I will definitely consider trying it. I may not try it. 9 times out of 10, I will try it. May not put it in the set, but I'll give it a shot. audience member comes up and tells me, I immediately shut down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I have no time for this.
I feel like I also have like a hierarchy of comics I would listen to.
Oh, that's definitely a good thing to have, because you can't just listen to anybody when it comes to that.
I think a point like my boyfriend makes a lot is like sometimes he'll say a joke and he's like, oh, that's a better joke for you than for me. And then I'll say a joke and he's like, that doesn't really fit in your set, your style. And I'm like, you're right. Here, you can have it for the future.
Yep. And that's good though, because it's good to be able to have somebody to kind of workshop with and write with. Yeah. And to have that, where it ain't going to work for you, but it would work for him and vice versa. Yeah.
And he's not weirded out when I'm like, is it weird if I write this down? He's like, no, go ahead. Like if I say something funny and he's like, oh, that's really funny. I'm like, he's not like, I don't understand you and I don't need you in my life anymore. I'm like, he gets it. He gets it. I love it. It's such luxury.
Yes, it's good to have a supportive partner. It really is.
It's kind of like, sorry.
go ahead. I was just gonna say, my partner's not necessarily like into like performing arts, which is good, but she's big supporter. I'm always running jokes by her and things like that, and very helpful in that way. But she doesn't have like aspirations to go do stand up comedy.
Yeah, I just think having him is just. It's the great things about dating a comedian without having to date a comedian.
until he starts doing comedy, right? Until he tries it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I've been trying to get him to, but now like he has this like break now while the pandemic's going, and I'm like, getting him raring to go. I don't know. It seems sweet.
And then he's gonna do it, and you're gonna be like, damn it, I turned him into the comics that I didn't want to date.
No, he's such a I love this boy. He's great. Geeking. Also, sorry, I'm a notorious crosstalker. So sorry if and when I interrupt.
It's fine. It's harder not to that's the one thing I dislike about doing conversations like this as opposed to in person, because I do have a home studio where I usually do these, but I've been doing them all remotely, obviously, for obvious reasons. And that's one of the biggest things I notice, because sometimes there's a delay and it's easy to talk over each other. And whereas when you're in person, you can kind of feel when they're going to talk or not, that kind of thing.
Yeah, this is also, I'm just a horrible crosstalker person. I can make a joke about how I have a face made for podcasts, but I do not have like a personality made for podcasts. I think I would only be great on Wait, Don't Tell Me. That is the only context in which I should be allowed.
I'm not sure what that is.
Wait, you don't listen to Wait, Don't Tell Me?
Nope.
It's the NPR news quiz show.
Oh, okay.
Peter Sagal?
It's probably why. It has news involved, and I try to stay away from news unless it's related to true crime.
It's so funny. Oh no!
I'll have to maybe give it a shot.
You gotta. It's got the greats. Like, so I'm so shook that you like. I grew up with this. This is like a road trip thing because it's like an hour long, and there's the host, like an announcer guy. And then there's like 3 panelists who are generally like comedians or writers who do like comedy or humor or just writers. And there's news related games, and like listeners like are able to call in and like play the games to have the win is the announcer's voice on your home answering machine, which doesn't sound like a win, but like, I'm sorry about the sidebar.
No, that's okay. No, that's all right. I'll have to check it out. I'm just not familiar. Like I said, I'm big into, when it comes to podcasts, it's mostly comedy and then mostly true crime. So
I'm not going to lie. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to like 4.
Hey, that's all right. I listen to so many. Well, not now. That's crazy. I'm like so far behind. It's like, I just want to go on a big road trip just to catch up.
Did you ever listen to Welcome to Night Vale?
I have not, but I've been, I have a friend that's been really pushing me to try to listen to it. I was just going to say, it's just tough to like dive into new stuff because I have so many already.
And Welcome to Night Vale. Yeah, Welcome to Night Vale has been going a really long time.
Yep.
So, because, yeah, it was big when I was like a teenager on Tumblr.
Yeah, and it's still big, so.
Yeah, it's so good.
Huh. Well, yeah, that's another one. Like I said, it's on my list, but I'm always afraid to dive into new stuff just because I'm like, oh no, I don't need any more.
That's how I feel about TV. I like don't watch TV, and now I watch so much TV that I don't know what to do with myself.
And there's so much to watch.
It's too much.
It's very overwhelming, that's for sure.
Too many options.
Right? So before we kind of move on, was there like for theater, was there like a performance where you felt like that was kind of a bomb?
I feel like I've had really supportive audiences, like from high school, like on. But definitely I've had some trash auditions.
Oh, like, that's interesting.
The trashest of the trash. And one that's coming to mind for no reason is so silly and such an old thing is when I was in high school, I was super into K-pop, like really, really, really into K-pop. Super into Korean media, watched Korean dramas, loved it. Also a huge anime nerd, you know. But K-pop has these training programs kind of, you know, and they scout people. And I lived in New Jersey growing up. So I was like in one of the areas where they would sometimes send people to like mass audition people for like acting and dancing and singing. And one time, I don't know how I did it, but I convinced my dad to take me to one of these. And I did a monologue from Saint Joan by George Bernard Shaw for people looking for the next K-pop star.
Wow.
No response. The dumbest thing I've ever done. Actually, no, I've done dumber things. But, like, that's probably one of my biggest bombs. Is just...
Oh, wow.
Just completely, like, talk about not reading the room, I've got to say.
And that's even, like, that's one of those things where you're supposed to be prepared before you even go to the audition.
Yeah.
You know, so you should have already kind of knew that wouldn't have worked, you know. Not even merely reading the room. That's just preparation.
I have no idea what was wrong with me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's one thing. I haven't done a lot of, I did some acting. I haven't did theater. When I was in middle school, my friends tried to get me to do theater, but I was super, super, super stage fright in school growing up. So that was something I had to overcome when I did stand up. But I have did some acting as far as like shorts and things like that. And I've did a few auditions, and I'm terrible at auditioning. That's
Everyone
like
is.
the worst thing for me. Oh man, if I have to, if I can just get the role because I know somebody, I can do fine doing the acting. But if I have to audition, I'm going to choke so bad. And probably not getting the role.
But like, I think the thing they don't tell you, even in theater school, they don't tell you, is that everyone is bad at auditioning. Like, literally everyone is just so much less good than you think they are. I think there's like certain ways to become better. I think there are people who like do genuinely do well in auditions, but I don't think it's because they're good at auditioning, you know?
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing is just getting to the audition for me. It's like once I'm there, I'll do my best. Bada bing, bada boom. That's all I can do.
Yep. That's a good attitude to have.
Because even if like you have a bad audition, if you're especially for film and TV, if you're what they're looking for, they'll call you back.
Mm-hmm.
So like just people always get down on themselves about auditions, and it's so like unwarranted. Like, just believe in yourself. There's 1,000 things you can't control.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that, like, I did an audition over the summer for something, and yeah, I totally choked or whatever. But I was talking to some people. I think I posted something in one of the acting Facebook groups or whatever, and a lot of people, because it was like basically asking about tips on auditioning, and they were just like, just don't give a fuck. Just go do it. Go have fun with the audition, and that's it. You're either going to get it or you're not. You're not losing anything. I was like, I guess that's a good point.
It's just, it's so upsetting though, because I always get things when I don't care, but I care so much about everything all the time.
Right? Oh, man. It's hard not to.
I know. Like when I was in college, we did this play called The Skin of Our Teeth, which is by Thornton Wilder, who's like a 1900s playwright, 20th century playwright, and very famous at our town. And I was the only one who was excited to do that show. I was the only one who was excited because it took place in New Jersey. It was super funny and weird and like crazy and wild and silly and over the top. And I wasn't cast in the show.
Oh, no.
I was the only one who cared about that show, the only one who thought it was funny, and yet
didn't get it. Oh my God.
And I know the reasons why I wasn't cast. Like, I know them. I'm not going to share them here. But like, was I mad. I was so mad.
Oh man, that's that's how it goes sometimes. That's for sure.
I'm still there.
I can tell. So I have to assume that's what you went to college for, was theater.
Yeah, theater and gender studies.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
When the bumming of bombing, that dreadful feeling, how long does that typically last for you after a bad set?
Like the fear of bombing?
No, the bumming of bombing, which is the
bumming of bombing. Sorry,
dreadful feeling after you bomb.
I think it's changed a lot over the last year that I've been doing stand up. I think in the beginning I'd like get more down on myself for sure, and now if I bomb, I think about it kind of like an audition where it's just like there's 1,000 reasons why that didn't go well, and probably a good chunk of them have nothing to do with me. And I can't like hold myself to an impossible standard of being perfect every time I do stand-up comedy, which is notoriously a very difficult thing to learn how to do.
Yeah.
Like
it really is.
Yeah, I'm new enough where I'm not really super concerned about getting the biggest laugh every time. Like I'm just working on like stage presence, like connecting to an audience and like saying the words as I want to be saying them.
Now, does having the theater background, do you feel like that's helped you a lot with, stand up? Because I imagine, that really helps with, doing act outs and just having stage presence and that kind of thing.
I've definitely felt like it helps a lot. Yeah. I feel really lucky that I have a theater background, and that I continue to do theater. Like I'm still doing theater, keeps me fresh. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I started doing stand-up was just because I like had a lull between I was doing shows, and I really have been wanting to do it for a really long time. I feel like doing theater does prepare you in a huge way for stand-up. Like if you can take a theater class, I think that would improve your stand-up by a lot. Just because, because I think the biggest thing is like a relationship to an audience. Like even though the relationship of a stand-up to an audience and like an actor to an audience is super, super different, I think just the existence of other people staring at you and being very focused on you helps a ton in terms of like the small things you do. Not just your stage presence, but just how you carry yourself on stage and what that projects to an audience. Like I see a lot of new comics, especially do the thing where they're like standing and they go like, they do the rocking back and forth thing like this, which is like it's like a dead giveaway to the audience that you're uncomfortable. And like a lot of actors do that too when they're like early on. I remember distinctly in college, like we had a moment where, sorry, gotta plug in my computer.
Yeah, definitely don't die. This is a good conversation.
I no. Yeah, I remember distinctly my sophomore year of college. We had a show with a professional director who like called us all the hell out on the fact that people were doing the sway thing. Because it's just something you do to keep yourself comfortable. And stand-up isn't about being comfortable.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, some of those tics sometimes, too, it's not just about being uncomfortable. It's about trying to remember your lines and stuff, too. Like, because when early on, when I was doing stand-up, early on, I used to look down a lot on stage. And a veteran comic pointed it out. And he's like, I know what you're doing. every time you're thinking of your next joke, you look down, and it's like a tick. And I started thinking about it and, kind of watching some tapes, and I was like, wow, he's absolutely right. That's exactly what was happening. It was that I was, getting ready to tell the next joke. So I was thinking about it, but instead of staying engaged with the audience, I would look down. And I feel like that's probably the same with acting, where they're like, you don't even realize you're doing the movement because you're just trying to concentrate and not screw up, if you will.
Yeah. One of the best lessons I ever learned in theater is, in terms of like acting, is if you're trying to show that you're thinking about something, or like in stand-up, if you have to think about something, look up, don't look down. Always
or just
up.
look out. Just look out.
Or look out. Yeah. It's just so
you don't even have to
engaged.
look at anybody.
Because I bet he would not have noticed that at all, that you were thinking, if your tick was to like look up or look out first.
Oh, absolutely. If I would have been continuing to look out, and while I was trying to think of it, he never would have said it. That's why he brought it up. He was like, I know what you're doing. You're thinking of your next joke. Because, I was just going to say, he'd been doing stand-up for so long. Like, he could just go through and just rip you apart with all the different ticks and stuff, Yeah,
and unless it's part of, like, your bit or, like, who you are as a person, like, there's obviously comics who, like, are very, like, outwardly expressing introversion, and so it works for them. But like when you look down and you're trying to be confident about what you're saying, like the whole audience can tell that you're not. Like it's like a dead giveaway. And I think that's one thing that like has helped in terms of theater, is like I know how to project a feeling and also my voice. But it has come in handy.
I was going to say that those are good skills too, because that's another thing I see with especially newer comics not knowing. There's a lot of technical stuff that they miss, like projection is a big one, and knowing where to like hold the mic and project, like if you're going to be really loud and really project, you need to move that frickin' mic away as far as you can. If you're going to talk really softly, you need to move it in closer. And a lot of comics miss that stuff,
This is an endless aggravation for me, because in college, so not only was like a theater major, we got a fast guy out there. I was an audiovisual technician in college. So like any like thing that happens on stage that is just audio technical flaw or like not knowing how to use a mic, it gets under my skin like nothing else. And it's not a hard skill to learn how to like talk into a mic, but it makes a huge difference when you talk into it right. It's huge difference.
And how you hold it, because a lot of times, holding the mic a certain way, you talk into the mic a certain way, and then because of that, like if you're holding the mic and you're talking to the side or whatever, it's probably not a mic that's made for that. And there's all kinds of weird, little things, technical stuff.
Every time the XLR falls out of a mic, like an angel loses its wings. I swear to God. Just like.
And the devil laughs when they pick it up and say, I don't know how to put this together.
Yeah.
Anytime I see that happen, I feel bad for him, because it does suck that happens like when you're up. But I'm like, if you're going to be in this business, the first skill you should learn is how to put a cable into a mic. Yeah. Like before you even start writing your jokes, just learn that.
It's like, it's a plug. It's just like, do you know how to plug a socket into a wall? Just put it in.
Just plug it in. Plug it in.
Plug it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you though on the taking the theater classes and stuff, because even like improv, like I've taken theater classes, and I've taken some acting classes, and I did I did improv classes and stuff too. I don't really have any aspirations to do theater or improv or anything like that, but I know it helps my stand-up skill. I mean, I would do some film and television acting. I mean, I already have, but so it's good skill for that. But all the stuff I've been doing, for me anyway, has been to help with stand up, and it's all helped with stand up.
For sure, I think a big thing that people comment on about my comedy is like how much my body gets into it, and I think that comes a lot from the theater background of like expression. Also, I'm just a huge person. Like, I'm just a big person. I'm from New Jersey. I express a lot.
I was going to say, okay, your personality is big. Let's
let's look at Jersey for this one.
Well, I was going to say, let's elaborate a little bit, because when you're like, I'm a big person, I'm like, I've seen you on stage. You're not a big person. Big personality.
Okay, fine.
Physically, you are not a big person.
No, I'm
and
big.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Hey, I've gained my quarantine weight along with everyone. Like,
everybody.
I'm getting there. I'm doing my best. I just want to grow up, you know.
Yeah, me too. I'm not very, very big either as far as height goes. I'm one of those short people.
It's okay.
How do you
underestimate you?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Absolutely. It's funny. I've had people, for whatever reason, they always are like through social media or whatever, and are like memories. They're like, God, I always remember you being way bigger than you are. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's because of my personality.
I don't even think that's a compliment.
I don't know. I don't know. It's my buddy Daryl, who's another comic here in the cities, Daryl Horner. He always says that. He's like, man, I always thought you were way bigger. You always look so big in your pictures, and I remember you being way bigger. And I'm like, well, I mean, I was way bigger horizontally. Vertically, I've always been the same height.
Yeah. I'm going on like 10 years of being 5'1.5".
Yeah.
Half is important.
It is when you get below 5'5", the halves are really important. Believe me, I know. My mom was only 4'11". So she was super, super short.
My grandma was that height. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
She shrunk.
So, yeah, I'm probably gonna shrink. It was funny. I went to the doctor and they measured me at 5'4.5", and I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm still wearing my shoes.
Oh no! Oh, isn't that the worst? Oh, I get really offended when I go to the doctor and they measure me at 5'1", and I'm like, excuse me, can you please double check that, because you're missing like a centimeter there, because the centimeters is where it counts. You know,
yep.
Like I am 156 centimeters.
And that is a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of centimeters.
I wish.
Oh, that's great. I feel your pain, though, as somebody that's always been short. How do you analyze your sets after you bomb? What do you try to take away to improve?
Yeah, so I record all my sets, and I don't always listen to them like right away. It's usually like a day or two after. Which might mean like in a week, if I do 3 nights in a row, I might listen to like 3 sets in a row, which is not fun. But I don't mind the sound of my own voice as much as some people, so maybe it's not as difficult for me. But I go over them, see where I might have said something a little bit different that might work better, and I write it down into the joke that I have stored in my master sheet. And I notice the places in which I get really like nervous or uncomfortable, and it's obvious from the way I talk. And I try to like consciously acknowledge that and know that I can do better. I don't try to beat myself up over stuff at all. I just accept that I'm learning. I'm a human being. No human being is made to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah, we all try. A lot of us try.
So hard.
Yes, we do.
So hard. And and just noticing trends. I think that's the most important for me, like listening to my work and analyzing how I can improve and how a joke can improve, is looking at trends, the way I'm telling the same joke over and over, and like what's working and what's not, and really trying to cut out the part that I keep saying that's not working, or just cutting a joke that's not working, because it's okay. I feel so precious about my jokes sometimes, but I have to learn to let go.
Yeah,
like just because something's funny to me.
Yeah, and that's something that I think all writers struggle with, not just for stand-up, but like letting go of the babies. You write something, you think it's the greatest thing ever, and it's just hard to do that edit, but it's necessary. That's for sure.
Sometimes it's too niche, you know?
Yeah.
I can't make a ton of K-pop jokes.
unless you're at an anime convention, and then boom,
absolutely,
you're set. And believe me, you can do that. Those are places you can perform. I have.
I've seen a comedian at an anime convention when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I remember I left early because he was just making dead baby jokes because it was 2012. And you know 2012. It's like when baby jokes were getting old. Dead baby jokes were getting old.
Yeah. It's funny because I've performed at a lot. Which anime convention was it?
Castle Point Anime Convention.
Oh, okay. No,
it's a small one. It's in Stevens Tech, which is a college in Hoboken.
Okay. Yep. Okay. No, I did one out. I performed at Fanime out in San Jose, California.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny to watch because a lot of times when you watch comedy, like I came in, I'm nerdy, but I came in as somebody who'd been doing comedy semi-professionally. And a lot of times the people that perform there are people who don't do comedy the rest of the year. They're only doing comedy there. So it's kind of set up like an open mic kind of. And a lot of them, watching, a lot of times they're only getting laughs because of their references, because they're doing like super nerdy jokes with certain references that's what's getting the applause breaks and things like that. But it was great because then I would go in and just do whatever material and I would get laughs and applause breaks, and it was because of the jokes and not because of my references.
Yeah.
But they're fun to do either way. If you get a chance to do it.
Yeah. This is exciting. I had completely forgotten about this comedian at the anime convention until you have brought this up. And now I'm like, do I need to market myself as a niche anime comic? Because I'm starting to dip my toes back in. It's been a while, but
yeah, I mean, that's if I had it my way. Well, granted, now I can't really do much, but I would love to just be a comedian that I only performed at conventions. Like, if I could go to a different convention every weekend, perform stand up, and then get to hang out all day at the convention, I would be in heaven.
That would be so cool.
That is my ultimate dream of what being a stand up would be. If I could just do that, I'd be okay with it.
I think I need to adjust my goals.
Yeah. Unfortunately, while it's fun, those gigs don't pay a lot. So a lot of times it's free entry into the the con or things like that. So
I'll take it.
But yeah. How do you find your funny? What do you do? Where does your funny come from? What kind of stuff do you do?
That's such a scary question. I don't know.
It really is.
I don't know. The pure absurdity that is human existence. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Yeah, I just think the world is silly.
Do you sit down and write for every day for a certain amount of time, or do you just kind of, when you think of something, jot it down? Yeah. That kind of thing?
Think of something. I'm not super disciplined. I want to be better disciplined. I want to write jokes and be intentionally funny, but I, especially over the last few months, I've just been not about any kind of structure. I have lost track of the days of the week. Most weeks, I'm just being very kind to myself, because every time I do make a schedule to do something, whether it's writing comedy, because I have a bunch of sketch ideas that I've been writing down. That I could potentially film, because I do have a camera and my boyfriend has 2 cameras and we make a whole big deal of it. But I have such a hard time following through with that. And I've always had that issue. Sometimes I'm just shocked I actually did stand-up comedy to start with. But I'm a disappointment to myself and others.
Oh, hey, you're not alone there. I don't dedicate enough time to writing. I don't do it I'm not disciplined. I don't do it for so long every day. I'm very sporadic. I mean, I wrote a one-man show, and I spent 3 years writing it. Just because I didn't, I never I didn't sit down every day and work on it. Yeah. I would work on it one day for a few hours, and then maybe a month later I would look at it again, and then maybe a week after that or whatever, so.
You'd fit right into theater. You'd fit right in.
No discipline.
I have found that I've been I've done a little bit of playwriting in the past, and this class I'm taking right now is really forcing me to be better about actually follow through, because I have to send pages to our instructor.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's another
which I never really do last minute.
Oh, well, that's how I do my homework too, is last minute. But that is a good thing about taking classes, because you're right. It does make you sit down and do the work, Yeah. So that's where taking writing classes as a performer can be very beneficial.
Yeah, I almost wish I wish that classes weren't so cost prohibitive right now, because I know some improv and other like comedy type places right now are like offering online classes for stand up and like improv and things. I just can't afford $400 to do an online 4-week class with Second City. Like,
yeah, it's
who can afford that?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I know I've been taking some classes, improv classes before this all started. And my instructor has been doing some virtual stuff on Sundays. And I'm like, sure, they're probably having fun with it, but I just don't feel like it would be a benefit to do improv virtually. Like, that's something I feel like unless you really, really know who you're doing improv with, you really need to have that chemistry, you know, and know what you have to have that trust, and it's hard to have trust with, you know.
I do want to give like a little shout out to Fool's Errand, who are through the University of Minnesota. Do you know who they are?
I don't. No.
Okay, yeah, they're really amazing. They're cool, really cool, like sketch, improv, many faceted thing, and they've been doing some pretty cool stuff on Zoom with improv and
cool
sketch. So I appreciate them.
If they found a way to do it, that's awesome.
And they're students, and they're so funny.
That's even better.
How dare they?
Right? How dare they be good at what they're doing? Yeah. Do you have a ritual or a tradition that you do before a show?
Telling myself that any nerves I feel are because I want it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective.
Yeah. Going over my notes, I guess. I had a show on Valentine's Day that went really, really well. And I had no time to prepare because I went straight from work because I work at a seafood restaurant when I'm not unemployed. And Valentine's Day is like our busiest day of the year. And I was first cut because I was last cut on New Year's, which is also one of our busiest days. And so I thought I was going to be able to, leave early. And I was told like, probably around 8 or 9. And I'm like, perfect. That's plenty of time to get to my 10 p.m. show. No. I got there and I was next up.
Oh, wow. Almost didn't even make it.
I had enough time to change out of my work clothes and get on stage. That's all I had.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's always kind of it's good that it went good though, but it's always hard to like that pressure of like just coming into a show and having to go right up on stage. Like, it's like, oh no, I'm next. I haven't even had a time to wind down and, just read the, kind of watch the room and things like that.
Yeah, and when it comes to open mics, I'm really, again, I like to be nice to myself. I don't know, I've probably said that like 80 times, but like, I don't mind having my book on stage or having my notes open. I use my phone to both time myself and like record anyway, so I often like double check it at some point during like my set. So I'm a year in. I'm not a professional. I can look at my phone once in a while.
Well, yeah, I go back and forth on that. I'm like, for me, it depends on the situation. You know what I mean? Like at an open mic, I totally get people using notes and things like that, or shows where it's not necessarily as important. But when you get to like a show where you're getting paid for the show and it's like a big deal, it's a little unprofessional, even though a lot of comics still do it. But hey, teach their own.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I like
I've been paid twice though. I haven't been paid many times.
Hey, you're still new, though. You got plenty of time. I like to flip things around and go out positive. So what was your best gig that you've done so far? Your favorite gig?
I really loved the show. So can I choose two?
Oh, I don't care. Yeah, that's cool.
Fine. There's a few really, really good ones. I really love the show I did on Valentine's Day that I was just talking about. It went super well. It was for Sex Ed Improv, which is like a kind of like every other month show that's like a variety show where that's like there's games and there's a raffle and they teach you about sex and they have sketches and improv and it's super fun. And I did their comic spot, which is like 10 minutes. And I just loved it. And they forgot to get me a mic and a stand and a stool. And it didn't have a mic. I didn't have a stand for a mic. I didn't have a stool. It went super well. I just used the projection of theater, like that would not have worked for everyone, like to be fair. But
absolutely.
And the audience was super into it. They were there for it. They were engaging. They were responding. And that was just a really amazing experience. Because I had been kind of in a big rut in terms of comedy, like just kind of getting down myself and feeling like trash about like being a comedian. Because I was like approaching like the 1 year mark and I was getting stressed about how much I had not improved. But it reminded me that like everyone goes at their own pace. And just because people aren't responding to me at open mics doesn't mean like actual audience members won't respond to me, you know?
Yep.
You know, like there's some comedians who just won't laugh at my jokes, and that's so fine. It's not their kind of humor. So it's really nice to be in front of an audience of people who like get it.
Because, well, the other thing, too, with that, a lot of comedians aren't paying attention to the show anyway. They're thinking about what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. So it's not even necessarily that it's not their kind of jokes. It's that they're completely tuned out. Yeah,
and that's such a bummer. And everyone there, they're trapped. They paid for this. They have to watch me. They have to enjoy it. And they did. And that was great. And I also really love doing Pussy Control, which is a show at Comedy Corner Underground that I love so much. And I was really lucky to go on, and I did a variety segment where I did a PowerPoint of animals men have compared me to. And I love that one. That was so fun. It was so silly. And again, the audience was engaged. They were totally bought into the ridiculousness of it. I got to go ham on PowerPoint like I was in 4th grade all over again. It was, it got me going.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And
that's great.
It was just fun. It was a collaborative space, so that was nice.
Nice. That's great. All right. Now, last thing I do this thing called Pick a Number. You're going to pick a number between 1 and 20, and then I'm going to ask you a question that corresponds with the number you pick.
14.
14. All right. Do you ever stop and think about how many butts are in the world?
All the time. Constantly. And like how my butt can be better, like how I can improve myself and ascend to a higher level of ass. Every day.
Every day. All right. I like it.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
People can find me on my website, madsfarley.com. Hey, it's my website. That's it. You can look at pictures of me and be creepy about it, or you can buy the things I'm selling, like this necklace that says food motivated on it, or numerous other things, like a shirt that says chuckle slut that Ali Sultan has said he will buy. So it could be yours too. You guys can match. You can also
do you make your own merch or do you use like a...
Oh, I don't make it. Like I use Printful. I use Printful.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, no, I don't have time for that. Again, like when? So it's convenient. I make like $10 an item. It's not a ton, but like it's cheap merch. So
hey,
buy
it all helps.
And it's cute. I keep meaning to buy some for myself because it's cute. I have crop tops. I also have for quarantining and social distancing, I have like one of those little like neck gaiters that comes up over your nose that you can use as a face mask. And says your breath smells bad on it. So you can let people know they're too close if they can read that.
Yep, that's great. I just bought one of those kind of masks from another comic in town. Started selling. He's got some really good merch. Wayne, he has. It just basically says "uck off," but it's "fuck off." It's got the Minnesota, the state shape. It's really good merch.
That's really cute.
Hats and masks, and so I bought a hat and a mask.
If you need another one so you can alternate between washing days, hey, mine's really cute. No, you can also follow me on Twitter. I totally need followers. Occasionally I post cute pictures of my face, so if you're in it for that, like, you may not think I'm funny, but as long as you think I'm hot, I don't care. And
just give me that attention.
Validate me. Also, I'm really upset because on Twitter there's this Jersey e-girl who's really popular right now, and I'm like, I could have been popular this whole time if I just had more of a Jersey accent. Are you kidding me? But I'm at Mads Farley on Twitter. On Instagram, I'm at Mad Farls, so it's MADFARLS instead of Mads Farley because that was taken by some teenager.
Oh, it's always a bummer when you can't get your social media that you want.
I know.
Okay, I have to ask, what is an e-girl? Is that like a virtual?
So it's a TikTok thing.
Oh, okay.
It's a TikTok.
That's why I would not know what it is because
it's like an aesthetic.
Okay.
Did you use Tumblr at all in its heyday?
Little bit, not a lot. No.
It's this like edgy, cute, ultra feminine, but also like quirky, gothy look.
Okay.
Lots of blush. Like, actually, my makeup today is inspired. You can't tell because it's a video, but like my makeup today is a little bit e-girl inspired because I just like the blushy look. It's cute.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I learned something. You educated my old ass today.
Did I? That was a very poor explanation.
I had no idea. Well, it's more than what I knew. You're like e-girl. Oh, you know what I thought that was like a CGC frickin' thing. You know what I mean? Because there's an actress that just got signed that is literally a CGC or CCG. Sorry, graphic. Huh? Yeah, they got signed by a real agency.
They got signed and I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. That's something we should all be angry at.
WME, come get me. Abrams Artist Agency.
Come get her. Get her. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I needed this. All right. Peace out, Boy Scouts.
The Art of Bombing is a Blitz Entertainment production. Hosted and produced by Dan Bublitz Jr., The Art of Bombing intro music was written and performed by John Holt. All other music used in this podcast was under the Creative Commons license. If you would like to help The Art of Bombing, you can do so by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our show on whatever podcast application you use to listen to The Art of Bombing. For previous episodes, blogs, and more, visit artofbombingpod.com. Have a great week, and remember, stay safe so you can live to love.